Most actors would say that accepting a job is more than just reading a script and learning your lines. There's a certain amount of mental preparation that comes with filming something for the big screen, understanding the character that you're about to take on in order to give those words and actions on the page credibility and believability. A few actors, however, go above and beyond when it comes to committing to the role that they're about to play. In such cases, the story behind the scenes is as mesmerising as the performance itself. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 actors that totally overprepared for a role. Number 10. Keanu Reeves worked on bookbinding skills. John Wick. Being an actor is not just playing pretend and reading script. Depending on the projects you work on, you'll almost certainly be asked to do things you've never done before. That isn't just limited to learning different martial arts and doing death-defying stunts. Sometimes you get to learn a new hobby. In an interview with Uprocks, Keanu Reeves was asked what he thought the character of professional assassin John Wick did in his free time, to which the star immediately had the answer: he binds books. He was so sure of this, in fact, because scenes of such had been shot for the first Wick film, but had been omitted from the final runtime. What the modest Reeves neglects to mention, but can be seen in behind-the-scenes material, is that he actively learned how to bind books so that he could do it on screen. This is hardly a simple process, so it's both an impressive and unfortunate level of commitment, considering it was ultimately cut from the picture. It's fair to say most of us wouldn't know legitimate bookbinding if we saw it, so they could have just as easily shot around this, but Keanu, ever lustful for the creative process and trying new things, jumped into the skill with both feet. Number 9. Shia LaBeouf cut himself and pulled a tooth out. Fury. Shia LaBeouf is known for extreme method acting, and when he signed up to be part of David Ayer's flick about American tank operators during the final weeks of World War II, things were no different. As LaBeouf recalls it, Ayer demanded the actors give him everything for Fury right off the bat, and thus the actor decided to take things into his own hands. A day after signing the contract, LaBeouf voluntarily joined the US National Guard and spent a month living on a forward operating base. It only got more intense from there. When pre-production began, he decided to cut up his own face, forcibly remove a tooth, and didn't bathe for 4 months. He knew what he was getting into with Ayer, who put his cast through an intense boot camp designed to make them fight each other both verbally and physically. Being forced to live in a tank together for extended periods of time, eating, sleeping and defecating in the same spaces sounds bad enough, but LaBeouf was already steps ahead with his own self-imposed grueling experiences. Fury is a bleak look at the realities of war and the impact it has on the souls of men, and it sounds like LaBeouf brought himself as close to hell as he could manage to get into the film's mindset. Number 8. Brie Larson wrote diaries in character. Room. 2015 Best Picture winner Room is all about captivity. Brie Larson, playing the lead role of Joy Newsome, is the victim of kidnapping and abuse as she is forced to live in a single room for years with her young son who has never seen the outside world. It's dark, harrowing and heartbreaking, but beautifully shot and performed by its central players. To prime herself for the part, Larson researched and spoke to psychiatrists about trauma and malnutrition. In order to better understand the loneliness, she stayed in her house for a month by herself and got into Joy's mindset, fleshing the role out by writing in-character diary entries from previous points in Joy's life that might have led her to the moment of her capture. But it wasn't just about that character's separation from the world. It was important that Larson and her 7-year-old co-star Jacob Tremblay spent time together to form a believable bond. The actors saw each other repeatedly for 3 weeks before shooting, improvising scenes and playing with toys. Some of these they even built together, and these appear on the film's set. Number 7. Daniel Day-Lewis almost died. Gangs of New York. There aren't many performers that can match how notoriously linked to the phrase method acting Daniel Day-Lewis is. Not just content with playing a part, the English actor has lived almost every role that he's performed in some fashion. Naturally, picking a standout set of method acting circumstances from his career is subjective, but on the set of Gangs of New York, Day-Lewis caught hypothermia due to his insistence on wearing period-correct outfits. Furthermore, the actor denied modern medicines and nearly died because of it. To prepare for the role of Bill the Butcher, Day-Lewis trained in the namesake profession and wandered the streets of Rome, where the piece was being filmed, getting into fights with strangers. We can only assume he came out on top every time. Few actors prepare for a role like Daniel Day-Lewis, who put his life on the line for the sake of Gangs of New York. Number 6. Jamie Foxx glued his eyes shut. Ray. Whilst we're currently enjoying a revival of biopics, particularly about the lives and times of some of the world's greatest musicians, Jamie Foxx's turn as blues icon Ray Charles came before this new wave. But the actor wanted to do right by Charles and really embody the man's struggles as the musician who was famously blind for most of his life. In order to achieve this, Foxx opted to glue his eyelids shut with prosthetics before shooting every day, which often ran as long as 14 straight hours. At first, the actor suffered panic attacks set on by claustrophobia, but they passed over time. By 2004, Foxx had begun to show that he could do it all, from comedy to action, but it was commitment to character in Ray that catapulted him to stardom. Number 5. Natalie Portman's commitment to ballet, The Black Swan. Focusing on a production of Swan Lake, Portman plays Nina Sayers, who begins a descent into madness as the intense pressure and rivalry with her new co-star gets too much to take. Ballet is no joke, and in order to not only get into the correct kind of physical shape, but also be able to perform choreographed dance pieces, Portman and co-star Mila Kunis began preparing for The Black Swan more than a year in advance, with hours of dancing, CrossFit and swimming a day. Portman's body paid the price. The intense workouts caused her toenails to fall off, her feet to become calloused, and she even broke a rib performing a lift. If anything, these physical demands just drove her closer to her character. Speaking of her preparation, Portman said, "Real dancers dance with such incredible injuries that you wouldn't even believe. It's a nightmare for them to be replaced once they've made it to the top and they get these roles." The performer's commitment to the film earned her her first Oscar for Best Actress. Number 4. Tom Cruise learned a whole bunch of skills. Interview with a Vampire. Paramount Pictures actually secured the rights to adapt Anne Rice's 1978 gothic horror Interview with a Vampire before the book was even published. However, the film languished in developmental hell for a long time, causing Rice's dream casting ideas to no longer be feasible when it finally bore fruit 15 years later. The studio picked Tom Cruise to play the leading role of vampiric Lestat off the back of his successes in Top Gun and Born on the 4th of July. Rice was publicly vocal about her displeasure at the choice. Cruise had to swallow his pride and simply get on with it, launching into preparing for the role. This included reading not just the Interview with a Vampire novel, but the entire series to better understand Lestat, as well as moving to Paris, shifting 12 pounds of weight and learning to play the piano. He also watched hours of footage of lions hunting zebras because he saw Lestat as not necessarily evil but more of a survivalist. Anne Rice would eat humble pie when she saw the finished film. She chose to pay $7,000 for a 2-page spread in Daily Variety magazine to apologise, praise Cruise's portrayal and rescind her doubts. Number 3. Christopher Lee took terrible film roles to play a wizard, The Lord of the Rings. Unlike some on this list, Sir Christopher Lee didn't put himself through physical hell in order to bring a character to life. However, as a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings series, he did everything in his power to make sure he got to take part. Lee, who admitted to reading the entire series annually, was actually the only member of the cast to actually meet Tolkien by pure chance in a pub in England. It was an experience that left Lee starstruck, despite the fact that he was already an established actor himself, known as the quintessential Dracula. When Lee caught wind of Peter Jackson's intention to cast the trilogy, the story goes that the veteran actor decided to take on a pretty abysmal TV job starring in the new adventures of Robin Hood. Why? Purely just to get something on his CV where he portrays a wizard to show that it was in his skill set. He then wrote a letter directly to Jackson and included a photo of himself in costume, pining for the role of one of Middle-earth's most ancient characters. It's very amusing to imagine Sir Christopher Lee so excited for Lord of the Rings to take these measures, as if his prestige didn't make him enough of a viable candidate alone. Number 2. Leonardo DiCaprio slept in real animal carcasses, The Revenant. Leonardo DiCaprio's storied career is marked with great films and many awards, but for the longest time a Best Actor win at the Oscars infamously evaded him. That was until 2015's The Revenant, a bleak, snow-capped film about survival against the harshest realities of nature, where DiCaprio plays a man driven by self-preservation and vengeance. DiCaprio was applauded for his commitment to the role, which was highlighted by interviews given before its release, where he revealed just to what extent he had gone. Speaking to Yahoo, DiCaprio said, "I can name 30 or 40 sequences that were some of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, whether it's going in and out of frozen rivers, or sleeping in animal carcasses, or what I ate on set. I was enduring freezing cold and possible hypothermia constantly." DiCaprio knew what he had signed up for, which is why he went as far as to eat raw bison liver for the film, describing his revulsion in the finished picture as an instinctive reaction. Number 1. Austin Butler avoided his family for 3 years. Elvis. At the 2022 Cannes Film Festival, Baz Luhrmann's biopic Elvis received a 12-minute ovation, the longest for any film that year. Austin Butler's turn as the king of rock and roll was given critical acclaim and perhaps even more special, approval from the family of the legend himself. Butler worked long and hard for that kind of reaction, having begun his preparation to play Elvis Presley before shooting began, a process which took 3 years of his life. It's one thing to play a fresh and yet unforeseen fictional character, but to take on the role of one of the most recognisable musicians of all time is a tall order that Butler took to with aplomb. Not only did he get training on how to sing and dance like Presley, he also got martial arts lessons so that he could integrate karate into his movements to better portray the way the king moved. Butler read every book that he could and fell asleep listening to recordings of Elvis as he practiced the famous southern accent. Perhaps most extreme of all is that he isolated himself from his friends and family for the entire 3 years to get away from Austin Butler's life and to become Elvis Presley. And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below, and any other examples of actors who overprepared like heck for a role. We know there are plenty out there. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell. I've been Cypher What Culture, and have a good week.